Despite how busy everyone is creating some of the world's most amazing art, the people of the Italian Renaissance had to sit down as well, shockingly. So let's look at Renaissance seating. Now, of course, we're going to see the Savonarola chair. This form just will not go away. We had the folding chairs and stools of Egypt, which lead us to Greece, to Rome. We had the Fallstuhl in the Romanesque and medieval period, and here we have the Savonarola chair in the Renaissance. Now, this is actually named in the 19th century after the monk Savonarola, who will, for a short time, rule over Florence. And it's not a real great period, but something for others to deal with. And he's a monk who will be burned at the stake. Now, the piece is composed of curved wooden slats attached to solid arms, and we see a curved wood seat and a back panel which can be quite ornate or quite simple, as we see in these two examples. Here it is still meant to fold, but we have other forms such as the Dante chair, which does not. And before I get to that, I should also point out the Savonarola chair, some form of it, also exists in Germany, and it will be referred to today as a Luther chair, because apparently a folding wooden chair requires being named after some religious figure. It's very unusual. But the Dante chair, another quasi-religious figure, of course, writes the Divine Comedy, which gives us the idea of heaven and hell. But what we have is a chair with heavy carved arms and legs, usually some kind of cushioned or velvet seat, and it will be multi-purpose. Now, while it's heavily ornamented and cushioned, it does not fold. It is simply taking that form. And we can see that right here. The solid form obviously does not fold or is not intended to fold. So this is an improvement over what we had before. The padding frequently is going to be horsehair and then fabric stretched over it. Oftentimes we'll have a loose cushion sitting on it, and the arms will generally end in a scroll. By the way, that use of the scroll not only sort of gives us a good termination to that curvilinear form of the arms, the seat, and the legs, but it's very comfortable. You can imagine sitting in it and letting your hands wrap around, and it's going to be very comfortable to sit in. It's going to draw you in. So this is far more frequently produced today as sort of a reproduction than what we would have seen at the time. And at the time, these would have been individually carved. So you would see elements. Here we have a 5-pointed star. Here we have some acanthus work coming down. So they take on slightly different decorative motifs, but that's all right. We like variation. Then we have the Sgabello Chair. And this is a light, rather uncomfortable wooden chair, typically used for dining. Now, the earliest examples will have 3 legs, same as we saw in the Gothic and Romanesque. These 3 legs, of course, ensure that it will sit on an uneven or irregular floor. We also typically see a fairly small seat, often octagonal, and a very stiff back on it. Now, these will develop, and over time we get more elaborate forms. Here we see a simple bench, and we see carved slats put into the back. So here they've taken that basic form and they've put in 2 legs, and there's a runner in between underneath the seat. Kind of hard to see because this is all walnut or otherwise ebonized or stained black or very dark. We have this very small seat. The back, you can't really put a lot of weight on it, or you wouldn't want to because it looks fairly delicate. The backs and seats are often covered in leather, velvet, damask, or other tapestries fastened by nail heads and sometimes some form of ornamental silk. Then we have the Sedia Chair. And here we see a chair in a form that we really recognize today. This could be a dining chair at any one of your homes. We see straight arms and legs, or fairly straight. Straight here is just sort of the general feel of it. I realize the example has a slight curve. We tend to see some S and C-shaped scroll work Throughout, we tend to see scrollwork at the top of the uprights. The back will often be covered, although sometimes it's wood. It will often be upholstered and covered in fabric. We will see a chair or seat that is almost always going to be cushioned. We're going to see oftentimes some form of decorative runner or decorative stretcher underneath, and then the feet are attached to this runner between them, usually with some kind of animal paw detail at the front. The use of animals as legs for chairs or feet of chairs makes sense. It's an easy decorative form. Then we have the Cassapanca, which was a great movie with Humphrey Bogart. But this is the forerunner of the sofa, and it's usually set on a base. Of course, this is a big, giant, heavy piece. In the case that you're looking at, it actually serves as storage as well. You could lift the seat and store things inside. Now, this usually had loose cushions, and it remained popular for a full century. They will often be prominently displayed in Florentine apartments and would have been seen as a seat of honor. It's really sort of a forerunner of the modern couch if you want a really uncomfortable wooden couch. And this will be used for seating and storage, multifunction. They're taking those ideas of multifunction that we saw from the medieval and they're incorporating it here. And actually, throughout human history, we're always trying to use a piece of furniture for multiple purposes, because if you're going to take up the space, why not use that space for something? For example, storage under beds today.